how the DNC has decided in their infinite wisdom that they're not going to hold any debates for the primary for the Democratic candidates. So there's two right now, Kennedy and Williamson, and they said nope, we're not going to allow a presidential debate. And here's my thing is I'm gonna play the video really quick because actually it's actually pretty funny because what's going to happen is if people watching on YouTube or people listen on the podcast, what you're seeing is all these articles that you find online. So if you type "threat to democracy" in Google or whatever search engine you use, you'll have countless headlines of how Republicans, MAGA extremists, they're a threat to democracy. And then what happens is all these people that care about democracy don't ever want to participate in the democratic process. And I'll tell you this, in some of the research for this, there's some chatter that Donald Trump, and we're going to get this, Donald Trump doesn't want to do debates either. And I'll tell you what, if he don't debate, I don't know what to tell you. I would say maybe look somewhere else because to me, it's part of the process. If you think you're going to win and you think your ideas are better, go out and debate, right? I remember when I was running for office, we were trying to have a debate with my opponent, and people were telling me, Justin, don't do it. You're the newcomer, and the newcomer never wins. And I'm like, I don't care. And they're like, what do you mean you don't care? It wouldn't be a good idea. I say, listen, I believe that my ideas are better, and I can prove my ideas are better. And you know what? Bring it on. And if my ideas for some reason are better, well, I guess I learn. And as we said before about the battle of ideas, I just have to go out. It's incumbent upon me to go out, make my ideas better, make sure I can communicate those ideas. And then hopefully in the future, when I am in another debate, I'll be more prepared. But if you're going to sit there and say, hey, listen, I don't need to debate because I already won or I'm great. No, I don't accept that. Like I said, I'm going to hold everyone accountable. So like I said, Donald Trump would lose a lot with me if he wouldn't debate. So here's an article. And this was funny too, because I think a lot of people are starting to call, the Democrats out on this. And I was trying to find a good article to sit there and to show like what's going on, but I want it to be fair. I think you and I both, Jim, want to kind of be as fair as possible, to both parties. And this article from Yahoo News about cancel the 2024 primary. Carrie Lake says Trump already won, so no vote needed. And let me read a little bit, because again, here's the other thing. I think people also have to start learn how to be critical readers of anything they read, any news story, or when they watch a program on TV, a news program on TV, that they have to be critical of what's being told to them. So I'm going to get to this article because let's hear what they have to say, because again, it's just so slanted a certain way, and it hides and obfuscates what's really going on. So Carrie Lake wants to cancel next year Republican presidential primary. The primary is over, she proclaimed on Wednesday, tweeting the results of a Fox News poll that shows Donald Trump with a commanding lead over Ron DeSantis and other potential Republican opponents. It's time to rally around real Donald Trump. We must focus our energy on exposing that fool at Joe Biden, registering votes, and funding ballot chasing operations in swing states. We should not be wasting time and money fighting ourselves. And then the opinion piece, or the columnist, says, yeah, who needs democracy? Right? But here's the thing is, they say she don't need it, but then watch the tone of when they talk about how Joe Biden doesn't have to debate. Right? So apparently not Lake, who is busy currying favor with Trump, that she's willing to throw away your right to have a voice in who will be the Republican nominee in 2024. Well, with Joe Biden's entry in this week's 2024 race, the Democratic National Committee has said it has no plans to hold presidential primary debates next year. Biden has declared that he's good to run the country until he's 86, so no other Democrats need apply, right? A new poll shows only 52% of Democrats don't want him to run again. So that's it. No debates for Democrat voters who might want to size up potential alternatives to re-electing a guy who is already the oldest president in American history. Where's the this is a threat to democracy? And again, this is like, can't we be fair and balanced? That's what we try doing here. We try being fair and balanced. Like, I want Trump to debate. I want Biden to debate. And, you might not be a fan of the people. Like, people might not be a fan of Williamson. People might not be a fan of Kennedy, right? But they should be heard. I think everyone should be heard. So what I did is I actually went online and I found a clip of CNN had a really good clip of Kennedy talking, and he actually says it way better than I can. And it's great to hear from a Democrat, because I think a lot of people, if they close their eyes and said, "Is this a conservative or a Democrat?" with what he's about to say, they'd be like, "Oh, he's a conservative." But I think what it really is it's actually not a conservative, a Democrat issue. I know we're not a democracy. Everyone's gonna say we're a republic. We're not a democracy, right? I understand that, but for all intents and purposes, I think we have a democratic process, and that's what he's talking about. So let's take a listen, and we can discuss. Sound good?
I am not going to run a mean-spirited campaign or a personal campaign against President Biden. He and I just differ really dramatically on issues like the war, like censorship, the control of Wall Street and the big corporations of our federal government, and the pharmaceutical companies, and also the use of fear as a governing tool. And I think our country's headed in a bad direction, and that's why I'm running.
I've just seen a poll that says you're at 19% among Democrats in a race against President Biden. At what point do you think he's obligated to debate you? I'm mindful of the fact that if it were a general election, the Commission on Presidential Debates has a threshold of 15%.
I mean, I think there should be debates. I think, particularly, Michael, at this time in history, there's so many Americans who are worried about election integrity, who have lost faith in election integrity and feel like the whole system, including the election system, is rigged against them. I mean, there was riots by people on Capitol Hill because of that, that driving conviction. So I think the political parties, both parties, ought to be doing everything that they can to convince the American public that we really have a democracy in this country, and that, our politicians are talking to people, are doing retail politics, are engaging in debates and town halls, and that it's not just a rigged system where the candidates are chosen by the political party that was done in the Soviet Union. So I'm hoping, even if I had 5%, I think it's important to do debates.
Would you go so far as to say that he has an obligation to debate you if you have a respectable showing in the polls, and 19% is respectable?
I think he has an obligation to democracy to debate anyway. And I would hope that he does that. But I mean, you're a lawyer and I'm a lawyer. There's no legal obligation that the president has. I can't sue him for it. It's a decision by the party. And I would hope that the party would put democracy, would treasure and value our democracy. And it would at least, I think a lot of people are feeling like, the shroud has been lifted off of democracy now, and that, it's all kind of fake and it was all rigged. And I think we need to be doing everything that we can to persuade Americans that democracy in this country is real.
Wow. Right? Like, wow. And again, I think this is why they don't want to have the debate. Like, really quick, I just wrote some things down when he was talking, right? He's like, war, censorship, that he differs with Biden on, fear as a tool that they use to control us, right? And he said we have to convince people we have a democracy and that the system isn't rigged. And at the end, he's like, the shroud has been lifted and people are starting to see that it's not what we think it is. And we've discussed that. Like, you and I have discussed this when we sit there and we talk about how we vote for people, and we expect him to go up and be our representative. And then when we were talking about the accountability with the state auditor in Massachusetts, and they had that lady talking about how 2 or 3 people in all of Massachusetts are making the laws for everybody. Well, that's not how it's supposed to work. And then a couple episodes later, when we were discussing at a national level, how a lot of our laws in blue states are starting to sync up together, and that smells to me that what's happening is, even at a national level, marching orders are coming down. So it's even worse than we thought. Instead of 2 or 3 people at state level making decisions for the state, it's national people telling state level people that this is what you're going to do because this is the way the party's going to go. And everyone that sits there and votes and doesn't hold their elected officials accountable, they're getting nothing. They're getting nothing but an illusion that they have a say. And again, I think this is why, one of the big reasons why they don't want Kennedy out there. They don't want people challenging Biden in the primary, because what they want to do is they want to control the narrative. They want to say, hey, your vote works. We want him. There's no need for this guy to sit here and tell you everything that probably open your eyes to the fact that you don't have a choice. We make the choices for you. And again, you know, harkens back to Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders was ahead of everything, and DNC's like, yeah, we're going Hillary because we don't care about what you say.
They learned their lesson from when Obama beat Hillary, when Obama came through the ranks and beat her. But yeah, I'm glad that they put the percentages there too, because we're not talking about anyone that signs up to run for president. You're going to have to debate them. It's a pretty high threshold. We're talking, I think it's usually like 15%.
Yep.
And that's something that I would agree with. So anyone that's getting 15% or more of the vote would be someone who would be eligible to debate. And I think that would be a great, benchmark, a great threshold, and a great idea. Is like, I agree 100%, is that on both parties, it's like we shouldn't be canceling debates, especially at this time. And he dropped a lot of truth bombs. I think a lot of people don't want to hear, but it's 100% true. It's the politics in both parties have become this top-down approach where it's the people at the top kind of dictating everything down, like you said, from the federal level to the state level to the town level, etc. And the movement we're talking about on either party, doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, is we need to flip that spectrum. It needs to be a grassroots up movement where the people at the top are listening to the people at the bottom, not the other way around. Well,
the other thing too is we started this, right? It's kind of funny because we're talking about how there's going to be no, as of right now, no debate in the primary, but we started with the threat to democracy, and if you went on and typed threat to democracy, and the reason why we said that is because a lot of politicians on both sides, but especially on the Democratic side, especially Biden lately, sitting there and constantly like, extreme MAGA Republicans are a threat to democracy, and all these threats to democracy. It's only when it's convenient for them, because I think the democratic process, like I said, we're a constitutional republic. I understand it, but there is a democratic process, and part of the democratic process should be debates, free, fair, open debates, so people can hear things, be heard, and maybe enact some sort of change. So when I was doing my research from this, I actually found I searched, what's the definition of a threat to democracy, and I found this one, and it's probably not the official threat, but I thought it was really, really good. So let me read it. A threat to democracy is anything that reduces the effectiveness of the people's control over how their country is run. Normally, such a threat takes the form of strengthening the political control exercised by a concentrated center of power, such as the wealthy or financial class. Those threats will shift the balance of power in government decisions towards policy specifically in favor of special interests at the expense of all others. What this shows to me is you have President Biden and you have all these people saying it's a threat to democracy, as they coalesce control, as they take it away from people. It's kind of funny. It's kind of a neat trick what they do, right? What we talk about. Hey, listen, it's a threat to democracy, so give us more power. No. The threat to democracy is anything that reduces the effectiveness of the people's control over how their country is run. So by you taking more control, you're the threat to democracy. And that's the thing is we flipped the script, and what we really need is people to start understanding this and working towards flipping it back right. We need this country to get back where people understand how things are supposed to work, and that if someone says threat to democracy, that they're using it in the right context and not just using it to fearmonger against their political adversaries. They're a threat to democracy, so vote for us and give us more power. No, no, that's not how it goes.
And the crazy thing about this whole setup is it's like a very thin shell company where it's like you have these people at the top and there's this lining of politicians that are controlling everything. And there's a system. It's the systems in the process in place. So it's like you have the establishment Republican Party and the establishment Democrat Party, and they're the ones that are with their resources are able to kind of control things the way that they want.
Yes.
But the second that there's a legitimate grassroots movement, both of those shells are going to come shattering down. And I think that's what we're trying to build here in Massachusetts. Is we're trying to build a group of people to get involved at all levels. And we'll find is like once we start pushing back on a lot of this stuff, there's not really much resistance against it, because all it was a psychology thing for a psychology to begin with.
What I hope more people see is by like Kennedy being in this, and again, would I vote for him? No, but would I support him now? Yes, I support anyone that wants to have the democratic process. But what I think more and more people need to see is that there's an illusion of a democratic process, and that illusion needs to be dismantled. It needs to be taken care of, and people actually need to have an actual democratic process. They need to actually see that when they go to vote, it means something. When they say, hey, listen, we elected you as a representative to represent us, you're going to go there and represent us. Not you're going to go there and someone at national level is going to tell state level what to do, and you get nothing done. And I hope that changes. It's coming, and I think like I said, I think what's happening by shows like this, by a lot of people being energized. I know people ask you all the time, like they ask me, like, well, Justin, what can we do? And my answer to them is nothing isn't an option. So, like, whatever you can do. I had a buddy of mine reach out to me this week. He is starting to email representatives. Good. Go to selectmen meetings. Go to your school committee meetings. Support candidates that you want to see. Either money, time. Talk to people about stuff. Show them shows like this. Do something. Don't just sit there and like, I can't change it. You can, because as you and I have discussed before, is they don't like sunlight, and sunlight is the best disinfectant on these guys. They don't want this out. They spend so much money to hide this stuff. And all we need to do is shine a light on it and hold them accountable.
Voting is just one way to get involved. Join an RTC. Attend your local town committee meetings.
Yeah.
Run for a town committee seat. Run for a state committee seat. Run for a state rep seat. It's like there's all these ways that you can get involved just beyond voting. At this point, it's like if you're just voting, you need to be doing more.
Well, one last thing before we end the show is something you and I discuss all the time, and it's kind of bothersome. It's bothersome to me because I think, unfortunately, it might be the mentality of a lot of conservatives. Is conservatives are independent; they want to be left alone, and I think because we're wired that way, I think a lot of them really want Trump to win because they think Trump will do all the work and they can just go back to doing whatever they're doing and living their life. That's not going to happen. Let's be honest, that's not going to happen. Even if Trump wins, we have to do the work. We can't let other people do all the work for us. And until we realize that as a party, until we realize that as conservatives, we're going to get trounced all the time because, unfortunately, our opposition, like I said earlier, they know how to circle the wagons. They come together because the only thing that matters to them is getting their way. And they don't care how they get it. And then we sit here, we're like, well, I'm an individual. Just leave me alone. I just want this. And all I want is I want you to fix it. I want Trump to fix it or DeSantis to fix it. And then I can just go do what the hell I want to do. and that it doesn't work anymore. We're gonna have to get energized. We're gonna have to get off our butts and actually do stuff. And it's not gonna be fixed in a week. It's not gonna be fixed in a month. It's not gonna be fixed if Donald Trump wins. It's not gonna get fixed if Donald Trump wins. Then Ron DeSantis wins 8 years. It's not gonna get fixed. What it's gonna take is it's gonna take a constant effort of people working together to take this country back.
Just like our founding fathers did in 1776, baby.
Yeah, you know it. Well, again, Jim, I appreciate it. We have a lot of discussions. We appreciate everyone that listens and watches. If you have any comments or suggestions for future shows, just leave a comment. Like I said, I have the Justin Thurber Show on Twitter. Obviously, you can leave comments on YouTube. We have the Facebook page. And, just reach out to us. And we appreciate you being here and listening. And anything to say before we go, Jim?
No, just thanks for having me.
All right, anytime. You know it. So peace out, everyone. Have a wonderful day.